can avoid being caught in that wicked snare of the devil that marks a snare to divide us, to create hatred between us, which is really just preparing the soil for Antichrist.
And I think that what we want to encourage the audience to consider here is, like you said, the consequences and ramifications of just getting careless in the way we approach these things and letting, pride or emotion drive a lot of
Mhm.
this is a real danger. And Mark, I love you if you could. I think you may have mentioned it already. Forgive me if you did, and I'm escaping because we talked quite a bit before we started this podcast. The quote about the Antichrist and how laying the snares and the traps to kind of prepare. I think you did mention at the beginning. Can you go back over that again? Because I think there is one piece that I'd love to get into a bit more with you, and that is the spiritual pieces of this. That it's not just my attitude or my opinion, and I want to be right, and I'm going to debate for the sake of debate and argue for the sake of argue. It should always be, as you said, Father, about winning souls and trying to get to the heart of truth itself. That's God's truth and order and peace that comes from that. But there is this spiritual component where we allow ourselves to be instruments in the hand of God and let the Holy Spirit work through us and our Blessed Mother move our hearts. Let
Mhm.
God really guide us and give us the wisdom and the counsel, which has become a daily prayer for me constantly now. Wisdom, counsel, and guidance, please, Lord, because in the world of AI, fake this and that, everything is becoming more confusing. And we've heard from even some great exorcists, Father Ripperger and Father Rehel and others, that we must have a much deeper relationship with God than I think we can understand because things are
Yeah.
going to become even more confusing. You talked about that too. But again, if we could address the reality that there is that spiritual component, because we could very easily become puppets in the hands of the evil one too, if we're not very, very careful about this. So, what was that piece again about the Antichrist and your thoughts on what I just said about being an instrument or a puppet?
St. Cyril of Jerusalem, it's a short quote. Let me quote it again. He was a church doctor. He said, hatred of the brethren makes room next for Antichrist. For the devil prepares beforehand the divisions among the people, that he who is to come may be acceptable to them. In the book of Daniel, we read about this one who comes and makes peace that lasts for 3.5 years. And then in the last 3.5 years, this week that Daniel speaks of, he breaks his covenant. So it's my opinion, and it flows right with what we were talking earlier about with the nature of Marxism and its teachings, is that they're trying to create chaos deliberately. The whole motto of Freemasonry is order out of chaos. So
Yeah.
you come in and you create all of these divisions, and then the Antichrist is what the church doctor is saying to us, basically comes on the scene. He's the man of peace who will unite the Jews, the Muslims, and many Christians who are going to be deceived by this. And so all of this division is really playing into the war with each other that's going to lead ultimately at some point to the Antichrist. So we need to be able to withdraw from this and not be a puppet. Can I? I'll share with you briefly one story. Years ago, I was debating on a music channel on a forum about a new music video that came out from Rascal Flatts. They're a band I really like, a country band. Their first album was really wholesome and beautiful, but then they came out with a video that was kind of really, it was really immodest and, not a good video for a band that was claiming in their notes to be Christians. And I had this discussion, and this woman came on the forum and she just attacked me. One thing after another. Oh, you're probably a Catholic. Yes, I am. I said, oh yeah, you're probably impotent and that's why you're here. And she just couldn't find enough insults. But the Holy Spirit just encouraged me to respond to her with love, to go back to the argument and very gently lay it out. Brothers, I never resolved anything on that forum, but 2 weeks later, she wrote me privately because I guess when I signed up to the forum, I had left my email and she emailed me and said, I'm the woman who was attacking you on CMT's forum. And she said, I just want to tell you the way you responded to me. Thank you. She said, I saw your love in it. And she went on to tell me in the email that she'd had an abortion years before. She hated herself. She was angry at the church because of her teachings. And you know what? That opened up the door for me to counsel her to go back to confession, to come back to the church. And she did. She went back to confession. There's more to that story, but I'll leave it there because it's an example. And I'm not holding myself up as one because I've made mistakes too on social media like everybody else. Sometimes I've responded with emotion, frustration. And so I'm having to learn how to navigate this too. But in that instance, it was an example of how love can conquer because God is love. And this is what you and I are called to do. As St. Paul says, shine like stars amidst this wicked and perverse generation. But let's not become like this generation, dropping F bombs on each other, insulting one another, impatient with one another. As I said to you before the show, we suddenly become like the stained glass window that could be letting the light of Christ and love shine through. Instead, it's covered with the same filth as everybody else. And then we have nothing to offer the world, but really hypocrisy and scandal. And so Christians, we need to come out of this and we need to take the high road. To use the phrase, the cliche, take the high road and avoid being caught in that wicked snare of the devil that marks a snare to divide us, to create hatred between us, which is really just preparing the soil for Antichrist.